What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another Power 4 projected standings video. And this time, we're going to be going through the Big 12 Conference. But before we dive on into talking about the Big 12, I just want to say I really appreciate your guys' just support over the summer. And if you didn't know what happened this summer, well, I went through and predicted each and every one of the 134 teams across the college football landscape, again, at the FBS level. If you want to know more about any of the teams you see on screen or any other team across the nation, they have a video up on my channel. Go find it, go watch as many as you want. And thank you for watching this video because it does help support my channel in more ways than you can even imagine. And if you would like to continue to support what I do here on YouTube, please like, comment, share, continue to watch my videos, subscribe, ring the bell. You especially got to do that one if you're as excited for the college football season as I am. Just thank you for supporting the channel in any way you can, for your continued support, for all the support you may give later. It really does help support me and support the channel, so I really, really appreciate it. We're going to dive in to talk about the Big 12 Conference, but I got to tell you what's coming up as we are heading into the college football season because, guys, college football season is under a week away. Under a week. Week 0 is this coming Saturday. Tomorrow, I'm going to be uploading my preseason top 25. On Thursday, we will be previewing and predicting the biggest game in Week 0. That's Florida State versus Georgia Tech. And then we'll dive on in either later Thursday or more than likely Friday into the rest of the Week 0 games. We'll let you enjoy your college football Saturday. And then later next week, we'll be going in and doing exactly what we're doing here with the Power 4 teams, with the group of 5 teams, give you my projected standings, conference championship game prediction and winner, and we'll go ahead and give you my college football playoff predictions, as well as preview some of the biggest games in week 1, and just overall give you what I am excited about and other things to watch for in week 1 of the college football season. But I don't think I have anything else for you guys. I'm really excited to start diving into the college football season. Again, we got to continue to wrap up our Power 4 conferences. We are on to the Big 12 Conference, and there is more change within the Big 12 this season. Texas and Oklahoma, no more are they. They are gone. So to pair with BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston entering the conference last year, this year, 4 former Pac-12 schools have entered the fray. That is Utah, Arizona, Arizona State, and Colorado, who is back in the Big 12 Conference. All teams that are going to be very interesting to watch here. And before we dive on in to talk about this, I just got to have an overall statement when talking about the Big 12 Conference. This is the most unpredictable conference in college football because, to me, confidently, when you take a look at the top 7, maybe even 8 teams that I have here, so pretty much everybody on the left-hand side of the standings board here, maybe minus UCF, but you can even include them in this if you wanted. Any of those 8 teams, pick and choose. I mean, Kansas State versus Kansas, West Virginia versus Oklahoma State, Kansas State versus Arizona. I could really see any of these teams, any combination of them getting into the conference championship game. The Big 12 is very, very deep in terms of how good their top ranking teams in the conference are. But there is one team that I think is going to separate themselves from the rest of the Big 12 this year, and that's the team you see on top of the standings board in the Utah Utes. I am in love with this team. I love Kyle Whittingham as a head coach, but you get Cam Rising back and possibly the best group of wide receivers that he's ever had at Utah. I think it is, along with getting Brant Keithy back. The offensive line is going to be good. We know what style of defense Kyle Whittingham teams are going to play. They're going to punch you in the mouth before you even step foot and play it down on the football field. Utah's going to win with physicality. They're going to win with trench play. They got a great quarterback in Cam Rising. Please stay healthy this year. That's just for every college football fan in general. Please, Cam Rising, stay healthy this year. But Utah, I really, really like that team. I think they're going to separate themselves from the rest of the Big 12, and there is no doubt in my mind that Utah, A, will be winning this conference, and B, well, I should say, A, getting into the conference championship game, and B, will be winning this conference. Now, who's joining them there? Again, I think really these 6 teams that you see coming up next. And I'm going to kind of bounce around and talk about them all because, look, Kansas State and Oklahoma State probably the two teams that you're going to see maybe the highest ranked besides Utah out of anyone within the Big 12 conference. They're a little bit lower on the standings board just because I think they lose a little bit more games than some of the other counterparts that you will see within the Big 12 conference this year. Now, Kansas State and Oklahoma State are still very talented. You got Avery Johnson there at Kansas State. You got Alan Bowman at Oklahoma State. If Alan Bowman can figure things out and get solid quarterback play out of him, meaning a very much so improved touchdown to interception ratio, Oklahoma State is going to be a very, very good side this season and can absolutely contend for a Big 12 title game. Kansas State can absolutely contend. They still got a lot of really good pieces there, both offensively and defensively. Defense does lose some solid talent from last year, but never count out Chris Kleiman. Kansas State's won a Big 12 title within the past 2 or 3 years. I believe it was 2022, the year that TCU went on to the college football playoff. Even though they lost the conference championship game to Kansas State, they still went on and yada, yada, yada. But Kansas State, still a very good team. I think both teams that I just mentioned there, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, will get solid quarterback play, but maybe surprisingly to a couple of you, they're down a little bit lower here on the standings board. So let's talk about some of the teams that are a little bit higher here on the standings board. Iowa State is the other team that I have here at 6-3. Watch out for the Cyclones this year. I do think that's going to be a good competitive football team that can make a run at a conference championship game. They're going to need a couple things to go their way, maybe a couple bounces of the ball here, a couple bounces of the ball there, a missed field goal here, whatever. But Iowa State, for the most part, guys, is going to be a very competitive team within the Big 12 this season. They got Rocco Beck there. They got Abu Sama, a great mix of young talent as well as veterans on the defensive side. Matt Campbell has taken this Iowa State program to be, again, a Big 12 title contender before. He's absolutely going to be able to try to do it again this season. They got all the pieces, a lot of the young pieces, especially after the whole gambling thing and all the pieces had to be kicked off the team and whatever have you. That happened last year. A lot of people thought Iowa State really wasn't going to be that great of a team. Well, they excelled expectations last year, and they very well could this year as well. 8-4, 7-5, maybe even 9-3, kind of right around where a lot of people are putting them. They could absolutely make it to the conference championship game as well. But again, those teams I have at 6-3. These teams I have at 7-2, Arizona, Kansas, and West Virginia. And I want to talk about the Arizona Wildcats first, because I think in terms of just when you look at it, they're the highest ranked team in pretty much every poll that you see out of any of those three teams. But when you take a look at Arizona, I mean, you lost Jed Fish, yes, you lost some other very important pieces, but you kept two really important ones on the offensive end, Noah Fafita and Tyrone McMillan. About as good of a quarterback wide receiver duo as you're going to see in college football this season. Anywhere, not just within the Big 12 conference, anywhere. They're going to be a really dynamic duo. They were last season. Tyrone McMillan's one of the best wide receivers in college football. Noah Fafita is a budding young star. And Zone Up, I think, still has some good defensive pieces. You look at who they brought in as a head coach in Brent Brennan, and I love his energy and his passion. And I think he's going to be a good fit with this Arizona program. Again, just fall short of a conference title game due to some tiebreakers. Now, Kansas is up here at 9-3, 7-2 as well. Kansas, again, a team that's going to be very close to a conference title this year. Yes, I know this is not a prank, not a joke. If you haven't been paying attention to college football or whatever have you, you just got to know that Kansas is going to be a really good football team this year if they can stay healthy. I'll knock on wood as many times as I need to. Jalen Daniels is there. Devin Neal is still there. Really good group of wide receivers. The defense, they just got to not let the spread offense eat them up like it has been. They have trouble defending outside the numbers, outside the hashes at times. But overall, Kansas is a team that's going to fare really well in the Big 12 this year. And again, just due to tiebreakers, are this close to getting into the conference championship game. So, Nate, why is West Virginia in your conference title game? Well, again, mainly due to tiebreakers. But again, I don't hate the pick for myself, right? I think West Virginia can make a conference title game, and Neil Brown's got a really good squad this year. A lot of really good defensive pieces. You take a look at what they have offensively. The running back room is going to be really, really good for West Virginia this season. You got some good wide receiver pieces, and I actually don't know if I've mentioned his name yet, but Garrett Green at quarterback, I think is going to be a really, really good player for Neil Brown's squad. And West Virginia is a team that, look, they play both Kansas and Zona. And in my video that I have them in, spoiler alerts here, but they all are 7-2. West Virginia has the worst overall record out of the three of them, which again, 8-4, still not an overall bad record. They just simply beat Kansas and beat Zona. They have both of them on the schedule, and West Virginia is one of those teams that, look, in terms of just who plays who, West Virginia, especially in terms of my predictions, controls their own destiny, maybe at some of the highest rate that anyone else does, because Kansas State, I think I have in their surprise loss to Colorado. Oklahoma State goes on the road, loses the tough one to the BYU Cougars, so on and so forth. West Virginia is going to lose a couple games here and there that maybe they shouldn't. Still a couple things to get figured out. But overall, I mean, look, West Virginia, I think, is a really good conference championship pick. Now, look, Utah, I think, is going to make it no matter what. That's set in stone for me. But anywhere from West Virginia all the way down to Oklahoma State on the standings board, maybe even UCF, the team we're about to talk about in a minute, I think it's going to be huge players to get into a conference title game. Again, I think one of those six will be joining Utah. That's just my personal opinion. But in realistic, just talking points, any of these top 7 teams, any combination of them, I could easily see being a conference championship game for the Big 12 this season. And of course, the winner likely will get that first round bye. But the Big 12 can definitely cannibalize itself this year. Again, I think Utah separates itself, but the rest of the teams there, they're going to make a great, great case. Each of them will, to try to get into that conference championship game. Now, UCF I have as a little bit farther back than the 6 teams besides Utah that I've talked about so far, but that can still be a very dangerous team. They have KJ Jefferson coming in at quarterback. They do have RJ Harvey coming back at running back, 1,400 yards last year. And what's better than one 1,400-yard rusher? How about 2 of them? Because they brought Penny Boone over from Toledo. Did exactly 1,400 yards last year. So you got a great rush game, some great wide receiving weapons. The defense is going to be solid. And UCF can just ride an offensive juggernaut under Gus Malzahn into a Big 12 title game. They have an out-of-conference game with Florida. They got some other interesting games within the Big 12 realm here. A chance at the end of the season to knock off a team in Utah that, again, I think is going to be pretty good this year. UCF is going to have a lot of really good, really good games this year. I think they're going to win some really big games. They might lose some games that they shouldn't as well, just because, again, the defense could be a little suspect, but overall that offense is going to be fantastic. And UCF as well, a team that I could see contending for a Big 12 title. TCU and Texas Tech are up next, and the only reason, again, TCU above Texas Tech is due to tiebreakers. I have TCU beating Texas Tech, and maybe if things go well enough for Texas Tech, they can contend for a Big 12 title. I don't necessarily think TCU is going to get there. The Horned Frogs are still going to be a solid team this year, some good pieces both offensively and defensively. Sonny Dykes, again, had that magical run in 2022. TCU will be better than they were last year. I think they get to a bowl game. But Texas Tech, everyone was expecting them to explode last year. Maybe this is the year where we can expect Texas Tech and Joey McGuire's squad to just really take that step up, right? And to take that next step. They got to get some things figured out with some consistent quarterback play and some solid things here and there. But overall, Texas Tech has got some very, very good talent on it. And it wouldn't surprise me if Texas Tech is one of the surprises in the Big 12 Conference this year. Colorado can be as well. Now, when you talk about the Colorado Buffaloes, it's really, really interesting, right? They have Shedeur Sanders. They have Travis Hunter. They're 2 of the best players in college football, period. End of story. But trench play needs to improve for Colorado, and it's why I have them missing out on a bowl game. I don't think trench play is going to improve enough for Colorado to get into the postseason. That offensive line last year was just downright horrible, and I think it gets better this year. How much better, we'll have to wait and see. Bringing a lot of transfers in on the defensive line. I mean, you're bringing in a lot of transfers everywhere, period, but especially that defensive line, there are going to be some question marks there, some question marks throughout the entirety of the defense really as a whole, but especially in the trench play. And I just think when you compare them to a lot of teams that they have on their schedule, such as teams maybe like Utah or Arizona, or even if they have to play a Kansas or Kansas State, Oklahoma State, again, I can't really remember off the top of my head. They're going to pull off 1 or 2 big wins this year, but overall, teams that have some good offensive and defensive lines are going to be able to punish Colorado, and I think that's why they fall short of a bowl game. Baylor, maybe a little bit of a similar story, but Baylor, I think, is close to a bowl game this year. I love DeQuan Finn coming over at quarterback. I think he's going to do some really good things. He's got some okay weapons, and they've got some okay pieces on defense, and I think things are going to get better for Baylor this year. DeQuan Finn needs some help, though. I think he's going to be a good quarterback for them this season for Dave Aranda's squad. Dave Aranda might be coaching for his job this year. I think a couple things, maybe a couple bounces of the ball need to go Baylor's way. Falling short of a bowl game is where I have them, but I can easily see them making it there. BYU and Cincinnati are close as well, but again, I think those 2 teams fall short as well. BYU is going to have Jake Retzlaff taking over at quarterback, losing a lot of good talent from last season. And just overall, I think, again, the transition for BYU to the Big 12, Still going to be a little bit of a struggle. I don't think they make a bowl game yet this year. Cincinnati sees improvements under Scott Satterfield, but a little bit more development is going to be needed there before Cincinnati can make it back to a bowl game. So I got Cincy falling short. And then you got the two teams that I have sitting at the bottom of this conference. Now, Houston at 3-9 can also be underselling this team because they brought in some good talent through the transfer portal. They still had some really good talent there. And I mean, look at who they brought in as a head coach. Hugh Freeze is there, right? Or sorry, not Hugh Freeze. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Erase that from your mind. Rewind. Whoop, Willie Fritz. Wow, that's going to be an all-time blooper there. Willie Fritz coming over from Tulane to be the head coach of Houston. And again, I think eventually he's going to get things figured out. He's familiar with this Houston program as a former American athletic team. I think he's going to know what it takes to win at a program like Houston. Now, at the Big 12, how long is it going to take? We'll see. But I think Willie Fritz was a home run, slam dunk hire of a head coach. They'll get it figured out eventually. I think that the talent is maybe a little bit lacking this season, but at least compared to the rest of the Big 12 and where it needs to be. But Houston could be another one of those teams this year, much like Texas Tech, that could be well higher in the standings than where I'm projecting them. And I mean, the Arizona State Sun Devils, they just named Sam Levitt as starting quarterback. I think Arizona State is going to see some good things this year at times. Is it going to lead to many wins? Well, clearly not to me. Look, again, I do like Kenny Dillingham as a head coach. I think he's going to provide some solid things here. But overall for Arizona State, I just don't see much success for them this year. No wins in conference there at the bottom of the standings board. Utah, West Virginia, my conference title game. Again, though, you can slot in whatever second team you want to me, and I'd say, yeah, okay, sure, makes sense. West Virginia, Kansas, Arizona, Iowa State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, maybe even a UCF or Texas Tech. Well, those latter two might be a little bit bolder. I'd say, okay, I could see it, but I think Utah's going to make the conference title game. I think Utah's going to win the conference, and I think the Utes, in their first season as a Big 12 team, will win the conference and get that first round playoff bye. Let me know what all you would change, who moves up, who moves down. Let me know in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. Final Power 4 conference in the ACC is up next. Goodbye.